Hi my loves, I am Monica. This is really the first video that I'm doing for my channel and it's very late. It's like a month late, but better late than never. Here are the 12 books that I read from January to April of 2021. And at the time of recording this, it is May 29th. So like I said, better late than never, right? Let me go get them. So I keep track of my books in this Literary Journeys journal that I got like 3 years ago. I've not used a lot of the pages because I would forget it was a thing and I'd leave it at my house when I went to college, or I would just forget it completely while I was reading. So I really only started using it last year, but that's okay. We're okay with it. We're gonna get these in order before we start. Oh, don't fall over, please. No. No. They don't like me. I don't know how I forget the order I read these books in, but I did. So that's my lot in life. I think we got it. I hope we got it. I'm gonna keep using this the whole time. So we're gonna go in order of when I finished them, because one of these books I like started in 2020 toward the very end of the year and I finished it in the beginning of 2021, so we're counting it. And there are others that I started, like I would start it in February and then I'd finish it in March, because sometimes I don't read. You can riddle me that. I'll give you $1. Here, I'll show you the stack. I had a single ebook. Here's, oh god, my stack in order of when I finished them. The one on the bottom is the smallest. So this stack is dangerous. You're gonna notice that when I do ratings, I'm very nice with my ratings. Most of my books get 3 stars or higher. It's very rare that I give a book less than 2 stars. And if I give a book less than 2 stars, or like 2 stars or less, I most likely DNF'd it. And I very rarely do that. I normally just push my way through books because I feel bad if I don't. But that's the way I rate, and I'm not going to change. I read for fun and I just like to talk about them. So how do I get it to just show me the cover? There we go. Okay, so the first book I finished in 2021. Oh, the cover went away. Oh, I'm gonna cry. I just want my cover. So the first book I finished was Shadow's Legacy by Julie Kagawa. Part of, okay, there the cover went. It was the small novella she released this year at the beginning to tie in with her newest Iron Fey installment, the Evenfall series. And I did read the first book of the Evenfall this year. It is in the stack. We'll get to it. Now this book, it took me a day to read because one, I really love the Iron Fey. It's one of my favorite book series of all times. I feel like it really, one of the first book series that really got me into reading like fantasy more, and I just have some really good memories attached to it, and they're pretty. I really liked how Shadow's Legacy really tied in Call of the Forgotten, the second Iron Fey installment series, with Evenfall, because I didn't know how it was really gonna work and where in the storyline it was gonna fit with the books that are already out. So I felt like this was a really nice way to tie it, you know, Evenfall into the already created universe and story. And of course, I just love anything by Julie, and that'll be evident. My love for Julie will be evident in a lot of my books this year. A lot of them. A lot of them in this video specifically. I'll keep a counter. I will. Our Kagawa counter. 1. Let's just add on another one real quick. The second book I finished in 2021 was Night of the Dragon, also by Julie Kagawa, the third and final book in the Shadow of a Fox trilogy. And when I say I was very sad when this ended, I was very sad when it ended, because I loved this story so much. I pre-ordered the first book when it first came out because just the description of it, if you have not read the Shadow of a Fox trilogy, let me grab. Oh God, no, where did it go? No, no, my book blade, no. I'll put it in the book after. I just get scared because it's the sticker. Shadow of the Fox is about a young half-kitsune girl named Yumiko who takes part of what is called the Dragon's Prayer and must protect it from people who want to bring the Harbinger. In my head, I always called it the Harbinger, and I know that's not how it was spelled. After 1,000 years, one person can recite this Dragon's Prayer and bring the dragon back and have a wish granted. And Yumiko is part of a team to keep this prayer safe and out of the hands of any who would want to use it. There is magic. There's a lot of called the Japanese folklore in this, which I did not know a lot of beforehand. So it was really, really fun to learn some of it. And a great thing about it is, if, like me, you don't know a lot, there's a glossary at the end of the book with a bunch of definitions on type of gods, just words that are said. I just think that this glossary in here is a really nice addition, especially if you don't know a lot about Japanese folklore like me. But Night of the Dragons, the third installment, the last installment that, you know, everything comes to fruition. Everything ends. I think I'm probably going to read this whole series again soon, because I literally can't stop thinking about it. It's the end of May. I finished this in the very beginning of January. I have not stopped thinking about the ending of this book. Have not stopped thinking about it. That brings me on to my rating, which I forgot. Shadow's Legacy, 5 stars. I gave Night of the Dragon 5 stars. The third book I read in 2021 was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the prequel book to the Hunger Games trilogy. And I'm sure most people know the Hunger Games. If not the books, you know the movies. If you don't know either one of those, I'm proud of you. How did you go this far without knowing it? At least if you're my age. If you're younger, I can understand. If you don't know what the Hunger Games are, the Hunger Games is a trilogy written by Suzanne Collins about a 16-year-old girl named Katniss Everdeen in a dystopian society years and years like after our current life. And there are these things called the Hunger Games. It is an annual competition where a boy and a girl from each district, there's 12 of them, a boy and a girl from each district between the ages of, I think it's 12 to 18, get reaped, and they fight in this gladiator style competition because, ooh, why were they made? I haven't read the Hunger Games in a while. I haven't watched it in a little bit, but it is one of my favorite trilogies. So we're just going to pretend like I gave you the correct reasoning on why they do the Hunger Games. And it's a whole trilogy, and I love it. And I have it right up here. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a prequel book that takes place on the 10th annual Hunger Games when they, were first starting out, and it follows, I will not pronounce his name right, Coriolanus Snow, who becomes President Snow in these books. And you kind of learn about him. He's 18 years old. I thought it was really interesting to see things from this book that I remembered from the Hunger Games and how they came to be, how certain aspects of the Hunger Games were created that were created during this time. And I also almost feel like I was not lost, but I went into this book thinking too much or too little, and it didn't meet some expectations, which was, it wasn't the actual Hunger Games. It wasn't that trilogy. And I knew that was going to happen, but this book, I feel like almost was trying to get you to feel bad for Snow, but I won't. I won't feel bad for him. I still don't like him. And if I was supposed to dislike him, then it did okay. You can't get me to like President Snow. I won't. This didn't make me feel bad for him. Cool motive, still murder. Sort of deal. If you haven't read The Hunger Games, sorry for the spoiler, but like he's a large antagonist in it. And you can't get me to like the... You won't get me to like it. You won't get me to like him at all. But I'm keeping the book because I did still like the book. I gave it a 3.5 stars, and that's because I just felt it was very politics heavy. Granted, because President Snow does live in the capital, he is one of like the rich families, and so there is that level of politics in it because he is part of the government. I just didn't like it because I love the Hunger Games so much. I wanted it to be like that, so that probably clouded my judgment. I definitely want to know more about characters in this book. The female District 12 tribute in this book, her name is Lucy Gray. And I have a fan theory about her that I shared it on my reviews on Goodreads and Storygraph. I have not shared this with anybody else, but I really, really like it. And I feel like, even though I've done like very little research on it, I feel like I'm right about it. Maybe. I kind of hope I am, because I just want to know more about Lucy Gray and what happened to her. So the next 2 books that I read in 2021, I am gonna kind of keep them together because while they're not part of a series, they are the same world. They are part of the same family. And I am dubbing them the Corkill Chronicles because I like alliteration and I wanted some way to tie them together. So the first book in the Corkill Chronicles is Fear the Drowning Deep, and then the next one is Dread the Harvest Moon, both by Sarah Glenn Marsh, who is another one of my favorite authors. I love her so much. She wrote the Reign of the Fallen duology, so check that out. I will never stop talking about that one. I'll probably make a video about it later. Fear the Drowning Deep is about Bridie Corkill, who fears the water after seeing her grandfather fall to his death off a cliff after a phantom. As you can guess, stuff starts happening that has to do with the water. Oh no, she's scared. She picks up her fear, throws it into the ocean, meets a man. I know. This takes place in 1913 on the Isle of Man. Sarah did a bunch of research on this. There is, they do speak Manx in this sometimes. They have a few small phrases, words that they say in Manx. Sarah definitely wanted to keep that into the book, and I thought it was a really beautiful touch, and to keep the characters part of their world and connect them as well to like the real world, because I now want to visit the Isle of Man, learn Manx. I don't know how I would do that, or if I'd have to do that there, but I want to see if I can find my own Finn in the water. Second book in Corkill Chronicles is Dread the Harvest Moon, follows Liz Corkill, Bridie's younger sister, 2 years later on her own quest that is completely different. She messes up a fairy queen's deal and now must complete 3 tasks in like 2 months, a month, before this big festival of the Harvest Moon. And it's so fun with this one. With the first one, you saw more of like almost like an outside world where the water was fighting them. With this one, it was almost like an inside world because the fair folk's all around them. But I really like the magic in this one. It's gay. The Corkill sisters are really fun to read about. I really love their story. I love their family dynamic. Their little sister Gracie, I don't know how you pronounce her name, but I love her and I will protect her with all my heart. In my notes for these books, anytime something happens to Gracie, I'm just like, no, like I immediately write it down. And I was like, here's where I'm writing in written. If something happens to her, I will throw this book. So leave her alone. Leave her alone. She's just a baby. But I'm ready for her edition as well, because I feel like she could kick butt. One of my favorite parts of these books is there is a witch named Morag who helps both the sisters. They work as her sort of like apprentice, maid almost, but she really helps Liz and Bridie in their own journeys and to really discover more about themselves and to be open with themselves and care about themselves more. And in a sense, made me like myself more. And I'm going to become the scary witch that lives in a cottage at the top of the hill. So, hi, my name's Morag. And I don't have a foot. Corkhill Chronicles, I gave both those books 5 stars because I loved it. I loved the world. I loved the girls. I loved how it made me feel about myself. Honestly, I did. Can I fit you in here? No. I don't have room on this bookshelf for all these books. Where am I going to put you? The next book is by, I'll give you one guess, Julie Kagawa. This is The Iron Raven. It is the first book in the Evenfall installment of the Iron Fey series saga. Is it a saga? I don't know what classifies a saga or a series. This is the first book of Evenfall. In The Iron Fey, you follow Megan. In Call of the Forgotten, you follow Ethan, her brother. And in this series, we are following Puck. If you don't know who Puck is, Robin Goodfellow. He's from Shakespeare. The books are sort of like a spin-offy of Shakespeare, but I love it. I love them all. I love going to the Never Never. This book was like going back to home. It made me really nostalgic. I read it so quickly. It doesn't look like it. If you look at the dates that I did read this, it says that I read it in 8 days. That's false, because I'll add something to like my currently reading list and then I won't touch it for 2 days. Like I put something on my list, on my currently reading list, and then my brain's like, don't touch it. Don't. I'm like, yes, ma'am. In reality, I read this book in like 2.5 days because of work and other things in my life and like eating. I read this book in 2 days. And I'm upset about it. I'm upset about reading it that quickly because I want the next one. But I know it's coming. The Iron Sword. So I will look forward to it and I can't wait. Thank you, Julie, for being like a lifeline to me since I was in high school. Your books have kept me going. So if we look at my shelf, here is the Iron Fey. Here's Call of the Forgotten. Here's the Iron Legends right here, which is a set of 3 other novellas that tie into here, into these books here. And then here's Shadow of the Fox, that trilogy. And then here's her Talon series. This shelf is almost completely Julie Kagawa. And I'm not sorry about it. Oh, and if you also want to see how much I love her, I bought the Fairy Loot editions of the 10th anniversary of the Iron Fey series. These were so much money that I did not have to spend, but I did it happily. I mean, look at how beautiful they are. And each book has a reversible dust jacket. So I don't know where to put these ones. I have to go through my shelf too. Getting rid of some books. Obviously none right here, obviously. And none by Sarah. And that is another mark on our Kagawa counter. The Iron Raven, I gave 5 stars. Do you see a pattern with the way that I review? Especially with authors and books that I love. 5 stars for the Iron Raven. Can't wait for the next one. The next book that I read in 2021 is The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. I really love The Phantom of the Opera, the musical. Specifically the 2004 movie that came out with Emmy Roussin and Gerard Butler. That is the first introduction I ever had to The Phantom of the Opera. I watched it in middle school in my chorus class. I think it was like the end of the year or like right before winter break or something. So my teacher was like, nobody can get kids to focus. We're gonna watch Phantom of the Opera. It's a musical. We're gonna talk about it too. Maybe we'll sing it. We didn't. A little sad about it. But I watched part of it because I was sick one of the days, which also happened when we watched Cats. So I had to watch that on my own. And I loved it so much. I loved the music. I loved Emmy's voice, Emmy Roussin's voice. Beautiful, gorgeous. And I never realized that this inspired it. I knew going into this book it was going to be nothing like the musical, nothing like the movie. However, that did not stop me from playing the music from Phantom of the Opera the entire time I read it. I loved reading this and seeing some of my favorite scenes from Phantom of the Opera in this book, albeit slightly different. A character that was different instead of Madame Giry. It was the Persian, which I'm very sad he was not in the musical, because I feel like he could have been a really interesting character in the musical. But I also see how changing up the way that Madame Giry is looked at was kind of cool. So if you've seen The Phantom of the Opera, essentially Madame Giry in the musical or in the movie is a combination of Madame Giry from this book and the Persian from this book. I just made that connection now. I'm sad I don't get to see the Persian in the musical, but I do have him here, so that's fine. The way that this book is written, it is written like a historical book, like a history book. There's footnotes where he, the author references back to something else or to a conversation. And I found at times while I was reading this that I would forget it was fiction. I was forgetting it was fiction. And I literally looked up one of the events that it talked about. Because it was like, yeah, then they found, his body by the Seine. And I was like, let me look this up. And I looked at it and I was like, this is a work of fiction. This is a work of fiction. And I was trying to verify the dates. So, going on Gaston, I gave Phantom of the Opera 4 stars because there were parts in it that I just did not like. So, like, some of the same reasons I don't like Phantom of the Opera, the musical, is Raoul was just, like, not understanding sometimes of Christine and almost controlling, but, like, not as controlling as the Phantom. One part about, like, obviously this is written as a historical document, so, like, most of the people he's talking about in this book are dead. So, even the Phantom's dead because it wasn't a real phantom. However, I know there's a book out there, Sing Me Forgotten, I'm pretty sure it's the name, that is a LGBT retelling of Phantom of the Opera that actually has magic, and I'm definitely picking that up soon. However, one quote that I really, really liked at the end of this that had to do with the Phantom, which I'm going to read, I just really liked it. It said, "He had a heart that could have held the empire of the world, and in the end had to content himself with a cellar." Like, this man essentially owned a theater, an opera house, and just lived in the basement with a very weird torture chamber room that I could not for the life of me picture in my head. It was like mirrors and also a rainforest. I don't know. It confused me a lot, but 4 stars and made me want to watch the movie again. I'm definitely going to keep this book because I did like it. I want to keep it on my shelf. All right, folks, it's that time. Adding another mark on the Kagawa counter. The next book I read in 2021, Inferno by Julie Kagawa. This is the last and 5th installment of the Talon series. The Talon series follows twins Ember and Dante Hill, who are dragons. They are trying to assimilate into human life so that they can live within humans without being detected. But there is the Order of St. George, which is a ancient order from the time of like knights and castles who have defended the world against dragons. And they're trying to find Ember and Dante, and Ember starts going against Talon. Dante's going full force into Talon, and there's a rogue in there. There's enemies to lovers in this series. It's like an enemies to lovers deal, but they don't know it until later. So it's forbidden romance almost. And I just really liked it. I loved how, you know, it was this long feud going on for so long. I also really connected to it because I'm a twin, and my sister and I are also very different with the way that we see the world, with the way that we interact with the world. And I feel like if my sister Erin and I were in this book, if it was us instead of Dante and Ember, I honestly cannot say that I would go in Ember's footsteps because I'm scared of change. I'm very scared of it. But also, if I can also see myself following Ember, because I would not want to live in an organization like Talon, and if I had an out, I would very much think about it. My sister would jump the chance to leave. So my sister is Ember 100%. I don't think either of us are like 100% Dante with the way that he's so like full force Talon. But yeah, Infernal, the last installment, just like with everything else, everything ends. It's sad. I don't want it to end. All in all, the Talon saga is just a very interesting read, a nice read. I love these books. There are multiple POVs, so I'll list the different POVs that we get. There's Ember's, of course. There is some Dante POVs. There's not a lot of him. You get more as you go through the series, but like in the beginning, there's not many. But we have Ember, we have Dante, we have Riley or Cobalt. He is another dragon. We have Garrett, who is a member of St. George. If I'm not mistaken, there may be a couple like unnamed POVs where it's just kind of like following the CEO of Talon, called the Elder Worm. But what? My cat Luke wanted to say hi. Oh my god, his dirty chin. Did you see it? Say hi, Lucas. Say hi. Okay, I'm putting you down. The next book that I read in 2021 was Pax. And I wanted this book specifically because there was a fox on it. The book was about a fox. I love foxes. I barely knew what this book was about. I barely knew what it was about. And then I bought it, and then I read the summary. And this is a middle grade book following the story of Pax and Peter. Pax is the fox. Peter is his teenage owner. And this book is set, I believe, World War I. It's set before a war. And his father has to leave the war, and Peter has to send Pax back to the forest where he found him. And essentially the story follows both of them to find each other again, but also Pax learning more about himself as a fox, and Peter learning more about himself as a person and learning more about people and how to have empathy. And you actually follow both Peter and Pax like in point of views. So I really liked it. And there's a second one that I didn't know about until I put this on my currently reading list, and it's not released yet. So once it's released, I may even try and pre-order it. I don't even know, but I very much love Pax. I want one. I want a Pax. I want a baby. I want a baby fox. It was a very quick read for me, at least, and there is some beautiful artwork. The illustrator is John Clayson. This is by Sarah Pennypacker, the same author of the Clementine series. I loved this book in that it almost kind of gave a way to explain war to kids and start a conversation about war, about violence, and growing up with kids. I want to see if I can find the art at the end that I really liked. I love it. It's so cute. I gave it a 4.5 stars. It was fast for me. It is middle grade, so it is a lower reading level than basically everything else I've ever read that's on my shelf behind me. There weren't many characters in here that I could connect with because I'm not the target audience for this book, but I'm still going to read the next one. I need to know what happens. There's a woman named Vola. Vola is one of the ways that Peter learns who he is and grows into himself more. But there is one quote from Vola that I really liked where she talks about the effects of, war and, in a sense, humanity on the world. And it goes, everything is broken. The fibers of the trees, the clouds, even the air is broken. And that's just so true. And I read that and I was like, oops, I'm doing my best to help the environment. And this book definitely made me think about it again. PAX is definitely a great way to talk about humans' effects on the environment, war, especially with kids, because sometimes it's hard to have those conversations with kids, especially younger ones, middle school, kind of grade school level. They don't really understand it. And I feel like this book is a great resource to use to kind of bring that into a kid's head and start a conversation with them about it. Because the younger we get them thinking about the way that we handle the world, the way that we interact with it, the better chance we have of saving it later. Now, my next book isn't saving the environment because it's a colossal giant, is Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. I read the Twilight series when I was in high school. I was one of those people when it first came out and, there was that big craze. I was one of those people that made fun of people for reading Twilight because I wasn't that big of a reader. And I just kind of went along with what everybody else was saying about it because I didn't read it. And my Aunt Rachel gave me the Twilight books to read once because she also introduced me to the Hunger Games, so I trusted her opinion. And I loved them. And I watched all the movies. I've read Life or Death. I read The Gender Swap. I've read The Short Sweet Life of Bree Tanner. I do love the books. I love the world. I love Twilight's the reason I like vampires so much. And because I like vampires so much, I've discovered other vampire stories. What's very shocking is that, the next book we're going to talk about is about vampires, too. I've met really great friends. I have really great friends, and we've bonded over Twilight. One of them being my college roommate that I had for 2 years. And one time he found out I love the Twilight saga, too. They were like, all right, staying with you for life. And we still are. And we have a group chat that we call the Coven with our friend Seth. And, oh my God, I have to get the present that they got me one year. I feel bad because it's broken because my nephew accidentally knocked over what it was sitting on. But one year for Christmas, Emmy got Seth and I these cute little cross-stitch things that say, what else is a coven for if not gay validation? Because I said that once in our group chat because we were just validating each other because we love each other. And they got these special frames that the creator, this is from Vulgar Vermont made it look weathered and stuff. But I need to, at some point soon, fix this, put the frame back together, and reinstall this back here with some new glass, because there used to be a thick thing of glass right here. So I need to do that and get this fixed. So that's why it's not hanging up. So Midnight Sun is a great book to relive your Twilight loving days. I found myself surprised reading this. Midnight Sun is the first Twilight book written from Edward's perspective. And the book starts with him going into the cafeteria at school the day he first sees Bella and realizes he can't read her mind like he can everybody else's. You know, growing up, I know Edward's not the best guy. He does have those things. He rubbed me the wrong way a lot in this book. A lot of the times he was just talking about like, oh, woe is me. I'm immortal. I can't do that to Bella. Meanwhile, Bella's like, if you know the Twilight Saga, you know throughout the entire thing, Bella's like, right there. That's her the entire time. It's me too. I'll take immortality. Give me fangs. I wasn't a fan of being in his head. I would have rathered somebody else's head. I think I've just grown from the type of person who like fell so head over heels with Edward and like one of my book boyfriends in a sense. One thing that I love with this book is that it shows Charlie in a different light, in the sense that Charlie's thoughts are muddled. They're somewhat blocked from Edward as well. So it's not fully blocked off like Bella's are. Charlie's are like half blocked. And some people can attribute that to Charlie being like head empty, no thoughts. But I want more from Charlie. I want Charlie to be a vampire and see what that would mean for him. Like, what secrets is he hiding? I'm just a big Charlie stan. I love him. He's great. I feel like Midnight Sun also could have been like this big. So like this much shorter instead of this big. A lot of this was almost like so repetitive, with Edward constantly talking about the way he wants to kill Bella because of her scent, which like we know about from Twilight, but it was repetitive almost to me, and I didn't like it. You can't break into people's houses. You can't take people's keys. That's creepy. I get you want to save her, and she does attract danger. I get it. Maybe take a nap. Still like it. I gave it 3.75 stars. I'll keep it, obviously. I also got this as a gift from Seth from our coven because I was not able to pre-order it. I did not have the money for it. He pre-ordered a signed copy, accidentally got sent an unsigned copy, and so he sent me his unsigned copy so I could have it. And he sent me this little note that says that he is happy that we have our coven of gay, vampire-loving gay appreciation, which I am very happy we have as well. I am very happy that we still got the baseball scene. In my reading playlist, I have a instrumental cover of Supermassive Black Hole, and it started playing as I read the baseball scene, and I was just like, this is perfect. Everything's lining up. Everything's going according to plan. You know? It was great. All right, one more check on the counter. The Immortal Rules by Julie Kagawa. Vampires. But in a whole other way. This was dystopian and vampires. There is a disease that vampires could possibly give humans when they turn them. There are these things called, what are they called? They're called rabids. This follows Allison. Some people call her Allie. She lives on the outer city of this closed off city that is ruled by vampires. And she's not registered, so she doesn't give blood like once a month, once every 2 months for the vampires. It's almost like taxes, but with your blood, which it's like taxes. So she lives in secret. She has to scrounge for food because if she's not registered, she can't go out and get food on her own. She has to steal a lot of it. She sometimes goes over the wall. Well, the next time she goes over the wall, her and her friends mix up with some rabbits, which is like essentially a diseased person or diseased vampire So you're not either or, you're this weird, like, pale white monster. Which, if this ever became like a movie or a TV show and I had to see an actual rabbit, I'd probably cry. One part of this book that I really liked, that I see with a lot of vampire stories, and by a lot of vampire stories, I mean Twilight and the Vampire Diaries, is that there is always that one group of vampires or that one vampire that wants to be vegetarian, which means animal blood. And this book just completely does not do that. Allison attempts to be a vegetarian instead because she doesn't want to feed off humans, but decides not to anyway. And instead is very conscious with the humans that she feeds off of and how much she feeds off of them. And I thought it was a really, really great aspect of this story that, you know, it wasn't shying away from her vampireness. She was being a vampire. She was drinking human blood. And while she was a little ashamed of it, she didn't not do it because she's a vampire and she wanted to live. And another point with that is that she fights like a vampire. She's not fighting to disarm people. She's literally fighting and she'll kill them. She will kill them if she's fighting them. And she doesn't care because she wants to live and she wants to protect the people that she loves. One of them being the love interest. And I'm not super into the romance of this story. Not super into that whole thing. But maybe it'll grow on me. So because I didn't really like the romance aspect of it, I gave this 4 stars, but a very high 4 stars. Dystopian, vampire, exactly what I used to read when I was in high school. I read dystopian books, I read vampire books, so this was like bringing me back to that time. I'm very curious to see where the rest of this series goes, and I know it's already out, so I'll probably see a spoiler somewhere. I'm trying to be as spoiler free in this as I can, so sorry if I wasn't. The last book that I read between January and April in 2021 is very different from every other book that I have mentioned so far. And that is The Languages of Tolkien's Middle-earth. This is by Ruth S. Noel. She is a teacher and she's written more about Tolkien and his world. And hold on. Here's Tucker, my other cat. He wants to say hi. You're not getting attention, huh? So you don't like that. Oh no, you want my window. No, because there are things up there. Let me show you. This book, I don't remember where I got it, but I know I definitely did grab it for me. I do like Tolkien. I read The Hobbit in high school and I really fell in love with it. And I fell in love with Middle-earth. This book is exactly how it sounds. It is Languages of Middle-earth. There is 14 languages and this is a guide to them. It's not like a study book, so it's not giving you pronunciations necessarily. It's almost like a beginner's guide, but it does have some dictionaries. It shows you how to write in Elvish. It contains a dictionary of English words, an Elvish to English glossary with some pronunciations and grammar rules. But I definitely don't know how to speak Elvish after reading this, but that's fine. I will say that I highlighted this book. I went through, I highlighted, I underlined. I have not done stuff like this since I was in college, and I graduated in 2019. And I barely highlighted books when I was in college because I didn't have good study habits. I gave this one 3 stars, almost because it confused me a lot when I was reading it. In the way that the languages transferred and morphed and evolved through, Middle-earth. I still don't know all of them. I wrote down in my notes where there's a list and it shows all 14 languages. So right here, this is all 14 languages. And I'm still not 100% sure which ones are dwarven language, which ones are hobbit language. I know Western. Western's the language of the hobbits, but I'm pretty sure there's another one. I'm not 100% sure. I know some Some of them are like, oh yeah, that's a Dwarven language. Oh yeah, that's an Elven language. Some of them I still don't know. And I feel like I definitely need another crash course, a different crash course in all the languages too. This is great for informational on how Tolkien came up with the languages, where they were derived from, and how he like evolved his own languages from within each other into other ones, which like he had a lot of time on his hand to do this. I majored in French and I forget how to say butter sometimes. And this man wrote 14 languages for his stories. What game are you playing? You think you're better than me? This is shockingly the fourth book that I've read that has anything to do with Tolkien. I've read The Hobbit like 4 times. And I've read The Silmarillion. And I have read The Fellowship of the Ring. I have not read The Two Towers or The Return of the King because that book's chunky and needed an editor with a delete button. I had to reread the Silmarillion too because there was a lot of information. It was like info dumping, and I felt like I was reading a Bible. He's very wordy, but I love The Hobbit so much, and I love the world of Middle-earth. I love watching the movies, The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I want to keep reading Lord of the Rings because I definitely want to know the differences and things that, you know, are like hinted at in the movies. But yeah. I also do want to show our Kagawa counter is at a 5. I read 5 books by Julie Kagawa from January to April. And the thing is, I'm planning on reading another. So that's gonna be, at the current rate I'm going, because I'm planning on rereading The Iron King and possibly the entire Iron Fey series in general. That's gonna be at least 6 Julie Kagawa books just this year. Let's put my book plate in here. My book plate from Shadow Fox when I pre-ordered it. These go on the inside cover. Where do you put a book plate? That's another thing. I don't know where to put this. Well, there we go. It's in there. Now it won't fall out. So yeah, the 12 books I have read in 2021. I have a goal of 16 books. At the time of recording this, I am 15 books into the year, so averaging 3 a month. My goal is 16, so I'm 1 book away. I have DNF'd a book. So if you do look at my Goodreads right now, it's going to be off because it included the DNF book, but my Storygraph does not, so that's the correct one. My average rating is, I write it down on here, my average rating is 4.27 stars. And I have a pages goal, because on the Storygraph, you can set how many pages you want to read in a year. I did 8,000 pages. And at the time of recording this, I am at 5,287 pages. This time last year, I was not at this level. And I look forward to sharing the books that I read from, May to August. I'm going to do every 4 months, because 4 is my favorite number. So the next reading update video I will give will be from May to August, and I'm very excited to share those books because so far I have read 3 books in that time, and one of them I really liked. I don't know why I waited so long to read the book, but I'm very glad that I finally did. Let me know your thoughts on any of the books that I read this year. When did you read them? How did you like them? Let's have a discussion. I love to talk with people and get their perspective on it. I love reading other people's reviews too. I feel like that influences my reviews sometimes, or the way that I go into books is by reading other people's reviews. Or if you have any questions on the books you see behind me or the way that I read, go ahead and ask them. If you want to follow me with my book journey, I do have a bookstagram. It is at pod_pages. I will either put it here if I can find out how to do it nicely. I'm also going to put it in the description below. So if you want to follow me there, you can. thank you very much, my loves, for watching this. I know it was a long video. It was a lot of books. I ramble. I also don't know how to talk sometimes. I can't talk about books that well. I just go, oh my god, I loved it. It was great. It's like, what did you love about it, Monica? I don't know, but I did. It's there. It's in the pages. More diversity will be coming. I have more diversity down here. My to be read pile is on the floor in front of my bookshelf because I don't have enough room. Don't come for me. Next video is going to have a poetry book, a French book, book with Black main characters, and a nonfiction book. So I look forward to sharing those with you. Hopefully I will do it closer to like the end of August. So like when August is done, it'll be like the beginning of September instead of like almost in October, like I'm doing now. But thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more from me, you can hit subscribe. Give me video suggestions. I won't just do bookish content. I'm going to do a whole lot of other content that I really want to share with people. So if you have video ideas or something you want me to touch on, maybe with any of the books behind me or topics, leave a comment and I will put it on my very long list. Here's to more books getting knocked off all of our TBRs because they're just gonna keep growing.